The excerpt of Dust in the Wind by Kansas that I'll be teaching you today contains 4 different chords that you'll play with your left hand and a very simple melody that you'll play with your right hand. You can download the free specialized sheet music of Dust in the Wind by clicking on the link directly below this video player. If you've already printed out the sheet music, then let's get started. Now, you may have noticed that the music looks very elementary, but I promise you, this is all you need to create a professional, full-sounding piano arrangement. It's very easy to do, and I'm going to show you how to do it in this short 10-minute video lesson. So if you're ready, let's start with the right hand melody. Okay, here's middle C. Our starting note for the right hand is that B directly below middle C. We're going to start with our thumb on that B, so it's a good idea to write in the fingering to key notes as we go through this. So you might want to write in a 1 underneath that B so you know to start with your thumb, and here we go. Okay, now we ended with our 4th finger on that E. What we're going to do is move our hand and get our 4th finger on that next note. And here we go. Now, by getting your 4th finger on that G, you have enough fingers to get all the way down to that D and finish the phrase out. Now, we're at the 2nd measure of line 2, so all you have to do is reach down with your thumb to play middle C. So up to now you might want to mark the first note, that B, with a 1, so you know to start with your thumb, and the last measure of line 1 you might want to mark with a 4 underneath that G, because you're going to be on that E on the measure before that. But what you want to do is move your 4th finger up to that G, and that'll get your hand in a good position to be able to finish that phrase. So here we are at the 2nd measure of line 2, and basically it's pretty much the same. So you're going to, but now your thumb is on the C. Once again, you're going to move your 4th finger over to that G. And that is basically the right hand fingering for this excerpt of Dust in the Wind. Okay, so replay this part as many times as necessary, and when you feel comfortable, move on to the next part, and I'll show you how to play the left hand chords to Dust in the Wind. Okay, here's middle C. Our first chord is going to start on the C directly below that. Our first chord is the C major chord, which is C, E, and G. A good fingering is pinky, middle finger, and thumb. A good alternative would be your ring finger, your pointer, and your thumb. So either one will work. Try both and go with the one that's most comfortable for you. Alright, so our next chord is the G major chord. So we're going to move to the right. Now normally we would play a G chord, G, B, and D. But we have a problem here, is because the top note of that chord just happens to be the melody note. Now what we want to do, we still want to play a full G chord. We still want a G, a B, and a D. But we can't play the top note of the G chord here because it's going to collide with our right hand. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to take that D, okay, we're going to keep the G and the B the same, and we're going to take this D and move it to the bottom of the chord. This is what we call an inversion. An inversion is just playing the chord, but just playing the notes of that chord in a different order. So, from left to right, our G major chord is going to be D, G, and B. And what you might want to do if you're real new to chords, or maybe if you're just real new to inversions, write out the notes of the chord right above the chord symbol. So the chord symbol is directly above the melody notes. So directly above that chord symbol, just write in D, G, and B. And you can do this for all the chords, but you're definitely going to want to do it for the inversions. Okay, now we're going to have the same problem with that A minor chord. We have to invert that as well. So watch what I'm going to do here. Here's our inverted G chord. If I just slide my whole hand to the right, there's our A minor chord. So let me do that again. Here's our G major chord, our inverted G major chord, which is D, G, and B. I'm going to pick my hand up and just slide my whole hand to the right, and there is our inverted A minor chord. Okay, normally the E would be on top, but if you'll notice underneath that A minor chord symbol, our melody note is the E. So once again, the chord would have collided with the right hand melody note. So we took the E and we moved it to the bottom of a chord. So directly above that chord symbol, you might want to write out E, A, and C. Okay, next measure. Now we have our choice here. We can move back to the inverted G chord. We don't have any collision with the melody, but you might want to do it just to get used to that inverted chord. Or you could do the G major chord in root position, which is G, B, and D. And then the last chord of line 1 is D minor. We're going to move all the way to the left. D minor from left to right is D, F, and A. Alright, so that's all the chords for Dust in the Wind. All of the other chords just repeat, so just to go through these pretty quick here. Line 2, there's our inverted A minor. To the C, inverted G, back to our inverted A minor. Last measure of line 2, you can either do the inverted G major there, or you can do it in root position. Either one will work. Now if you go to the inverted G, it's a whole lot easier to switch to the D minor, because all you have to do is move the G and the B down to the F and the A. The D is in both chords, so since both chords have a common note, it's an easier chord switch. And then our last chord of this little excerpt here is back to the inverted A minor. Okay, so replay this part as many times as necessary. When you feel comfortable with the left hand chords and the right hand melody, move on to the next part and I'll show you how to play both hands together. Okay, here we go with Dust in the Wind, both hands played together. Alright, our first melody note there is the B. You'll notice there is no chord symbol in that measure, so that B gets played all by itself. Now we come to measure 2. As I get ready to play that C in the right hand, you'll notice directly above that note you'll see a C major chord symbol. Since they line up together vertically, this C and the C major chord symbol, that tells you to play them at the same time. Now, our next melody note has a G chord symbol directly above it. So as I get ready to play this D in the right hand, I'm going to go with my left hand and play the G at the same time. And remember, that's our inverted G chord. So they get played together. Alright, next measure, the E in the right hand gets played as it lines up with the A minor chord. They get played at the same time. Alright, last measure of line 1. I'm going to move my fourth finger up to that G, and that G lines up with the G major chord. They get played together. Now, I'm going to play those next 3 Gs all by themselves. Okay, I'm going to keep the G chord held down though, since there is no other chord up until we see that chord change. So as I get ready to play that G, again, you'll notice the D minor chord symbol above it. They get played together. Now there are no chord symbols, no other chord symbols in that measure, so I'm going to keep the D minor chord held down as I finish the rest of those melody notes. Okay, we're on the first measure of line 2. I'm going to get ready to play that D again. That lines up with the A minor chord symbol. They get played together. Now there are no other chords in that measure, so I just finish out the rest of the melody notes. And that is how you play both hands together for this excerpt of Dust in the Wind. The last 4 measures are basically the same as what I just played. So let me play this up to speed so you can kind of get an idea of what it sounds like. So here we go, Dust in the Wind, up to speed, both hands played together. Okay, so take your time with this. This is going to take a little practice, but just take your time and have fun. So I hope you've enjoyed the tutorial. My name is Guy Fawkes, and this is EasyChordPianoLessons.com.